A point of order, Annette King.
Mr Speaker, I've discovered quite an unusual situation. The Associate Minister of Health spoke in this second reading of this bill, and I have just noticed that in fact this bill is still in the name of Tariana Turia, and I'm wondering whether this House needs to change the name of the Minister on this bill, because it's an unusual situation that a bill we're debating is in the name of a minister who is no longer in this Parliament, but the Associate Minister is taking responsibility and credit for it.
Any response?
Mr Speaker.
Yeah, speak to the point of order.
Speaking of the point of order, yes, look, I'll seek leave to change the name on the bill to my name, Mr Speaker.
Well, I think I can't stop the member seeking leave in that way, but I think it will be slightly impractical for staff to go around with Twink and sort of. Does Twink still exist? I mean, with Twink and Twink out and put while we are mid debate. So can I encourage the minister to let me not put that leave? I will indicate to the Honourable Annette King that the normal practice is for the name of the minister to change when the bill is reprinted. I think we know that this has taken some time, but I think I can remember that even when that member was an Honourable Minister of Health, she might have had some legislation herself which stayed in her name even when the government changed. Order. So I think what we'll do, if it's all right with members, is I won't put the leave, and we will continue. But it's I think we will accept that it's an unusual situation for something to be in the name of someone who is not even a member, nonetheless. Right. Barbara, what's the surname? Barbara Stewart.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak to the second reading of the Smoke-Free Environments Tobacco Plain Packaging Bill. Mr Speaker, New Zealand First supported this bill to Select Committee at the first reading because we believed that it was really important to get the views of submitters, which we listened to with interest, and we promised to do that in our first reading speech. It was challenging to get the views, to get a substantive view of the situation when we listened to the statistics, because it depended on who was presenting a submission to us as to what the actual statistics were, whether they were in the industry campaigning for smoke-free or whether or not they were actually tobacco manufacturers. There's absolutely no doubt that cigarettes are harmful and they cause a significant number of deaths every year. I was fortunate enough to be a part of the Select Committee that travelled to Australia to find out a little more about their smoke-free experience. No, it wasn't a junket this time. We found out that from plain... No... Oh, we didn't do
Order.
that. So, plain packaging in Australia, the trends show that there is a downward trend of tobacco consumption in Australia, but that wasn't necessarily related to plain packaging. The Australian Institute of Health and Welfare confirms that plain packaging doesn't show itself to be the key factor in this downward trend. So rather, price was the key factor. And of course, Australia are carrying out annual surveys, and their population shows that in the year after plain packaging was introduced, that consumption actually increased in most states. and youth youth smoking actually increased in that time as well. The researchers from the RMIT University in Australia analysed the Australian consumption habits and found, and I quote, "Any evidence to suggest that plain packaging policy has reduced household expenditure on tobacco is simply lacking." So the experience over in Australia showed that the Australian tobacco industry actually sold far more cigarettes and tobacco in the first year of plain packaging than it did in the last year of branded sales. In fact, part of that growth was due to a large number of people buying roll-your-own products, the tobacco, because it was far easier to actually get. People were buying based on price. That was the cheapest way to go, and it was easier than buying the cigarettes. We believe that people aren't stopping smoking because of plain packaging, only changing the tobacco product that they purchase. And really, we would like to see in New Zealand First some reduction in tobacco consumption. Ironically, I was talking to a group of young people and was told that they weren't interested in the packets. This is a lot of people that I was talking to, actually, Mr. Bridges, and they were only interested in what was inside the packet. They didn't care about the outside, just the inside. So, and of course, it's very easy to buy containers to actually put the cigarettes into. They're easily available so that you don't have to see these body parts, diseased body parts, when they want to indulge. So it's really easy to get around this plain packaging legislation with very little effort. Most people, smokers, are now desensitised to those pictures on the tobacco packets. So we believe in New Zealand First that a totally different approach is actually needed, because those pictures don't mean a lot anymore. We know there should be education. We don't want people to die from cigarette smoking. So perhaps we need to look at ads that are similar to the TUI ads that actually capture people's attention. They may be the best for smokers. Something along that sort of line. We also want to know if we're going to go ahead with this plain packaging, because we believe that it is improving the health of New Zealanders. Are we going to apply the same precedent to alcohol, which causes far more harm than tobacco? Are we going to apply it to high sugar foods, chocolate, energy drinks, high salt foods, gambling? All of these are harmful. Why don't we remove branding from these items as well? We know that there's 1.2 million New Zealanders that are obese, costing around about $686 million per year to the healthcare system. Why is there no action on branding? Likewise, this afternoon, the government was unwilling to ban sunbeds, even though there's a clear link between sunbed use and the development of melanoma. So why is there no sunbed-free New Zealand from 2025 or something? We believe the Minister talked a lot about smoke-free New Zealand by 2025, and that implementing plain packaging was going to be the very first step. We don't believe that there's a hope of introducing a smoke-free New Zealand by 2025, particularly if we keep following the path that we're on. If New Zealand is to be smoke-free, why not ban tobacco? It's a legal product, so we know that there's about 17% of New Zealand adults that smoke, so why not ban the product altogether? Also, the excise tax of tobacco products raises about $1.4 billion each year, and around $300 million is spent on smoking-related costs. What is the government going to do to replace the over $1 billion in tax revenue that's no longer going to be collected if New Zealand becomes smoke-free? Also, tourism. Overseas, our Asian tourists are smokers that will have a negative effect on tourism. We've had letters saying that tourists will be turned off, unwilling to come to New Zealand because they're not able to practice their habit which they enjoy. So how many tourists are we actually going to lose with this stance? And finally, we know that there's an increase in crime around cigarettes. Young people in particular, are breaking into service stations, liquor stalls, and they're being targeted not for the till, but for cigarettes. So already in New Zealand, we can see an increase in black market activity. We know that the New Zealand illicit tobacco market is estimated at about 8% of tobacco products. We're likely to see the same levels of illicit tobacco entering the country. And of course, we have to be aware that people can and are growing their own tobacco products and drying them in their own garages and wherever. So we do not believe that introducing plain packaging is the way to reduce the incidence of smoking. There has to be far more than that. In New Zealand First, we have always said that we will support good legislation and we will oppose bad legislation. Mr. Speaker, we don't believe that this measure is going to do what everyone believes it will. We will not be smoke-free. We will still have smokers, and we are just wasting our time carrying through this piece of legislation.
Dr.